Hello again, BookTube. Alex Banks back here again with my second video on my Books with Banks channel. Today I'm going to do a little bit of a shorter video than my longer Malazan ranking, and I'm not going to actually talk about Malazan at all. That's a series I've read every entry in. Today I'm actually going to talk about my TBR and series I want to either continue or start off with for the rest of the year 2022. So if anyone's interested or wanting to, please feel free to comment in the comment section down below and give me your recommendations for which of these options I'm about to list off you'd highly recommend me either jumping back into the series or starting off with the series or the author. I'd love to hear community feedback from the fantasy booktube community, just to see which series there would be more interest in me making videos on in the future. So first we're going to talk about a series I'm actually currently reading the third novel in, and it is, I'll say it's probably of all of these the lightest on the fantasy elements. But it is one of my favorite series, and I got really into the TV show, and then I started to read the books, and I have the whole series on the top middle shelf back there. Anyone who recognizes those spines will know what I'm talking about. This is the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. This is the third book, Voyager. I'm right here. I'm about halfway through this one. And I'm going through pretty slowly. I started at the beginning of the year, but I'm going through reading the novels, but I'm also reading all of the side short stories and novellas. So this is a lot of there's a character named Lord John in the series, a lot of his sort of investigation, supernatural kind of short stories and novellas. And those are like this. Here's a collection of short stories and novellas of his, and here's the first Lord John side novel. So a big part of my TBR for the rest of the year is going to at least be finishing this book, continuing on with these where they chronologically happen, in fitting into the rest of the series, and then hopefully by the end of the year, mixed in with everything else I read, I'll be able to eventually get to book 4, Drums of Autumn. I should mention I love this cover. I think the blue and the tree design, I think it's gorgeous. And I'm loving the series so far. I really intend to, especially once I get a little deeper into the series, I intend to make more videos about this series. So yes, please let me know down below if anyone's interested in me really just kind of charging forward with this series and making more content. I also think something that might be a little bit more unique is that when I see people on BookTube talking about the Outlander series, it's often women, which... and there's some amazing videos out there, but I do think there might be a little bit of a stereotype about romance and, over-sexualized scenes, romantic sexual scenes. I think, honestly, when I read those scenes, I enjoy them, and as much as I enjoy a violent kind of action sequence in another book. They're both these very high emotional points, and so I'm not exactly sure where that sort of gender divide stigma comes from and why a lot more women are drawn to a series like this with some light sci-fi time travel elements, but also a lot of romance. Really, for anyone who hasn't read the series, it's mostly historical fiction, is really probably 50-60% of it, maybe 20% romance, 20% kind of medical stuff, and then out of 10% sci-fi. Again, I really intend, and I really look forward to doing more videos on the series, but please let me know below if anyone would like me to kind of disregard everything else I'm about to talk about and just really spend the rest of the year dedicated to the main series of novels and the side novellas and short stories. The next series I'm going to talk about is, it's a trilogy, and earlier this year, I read the first book in this series, and I liked it. However, the sci-fi and fantasy elements of the series were just a little bit. They're so creative and so inventive and so unfamiliar. The author just has such an amazing imagination that it actually. I hate to say it, but it was hard to envision certain things in the world. It was hard to conceive of what was actually going on in some cases, but its confusing nature, I think, really works for it, and I've only thought good things about it since I read the fifth season, the first book in N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy. This is The Obelisk Gate, the second book. Haven't started this one yet. A big pro for why I might dive into this pretty soon here is that it's a little bit shorter, especially than like compared to the Outlander series. Again, similar to any fans of Outlander, any fans of N.K. Jemisin, or specifically this trilogy, even more specifically, let's say someone out there is watching this and says, oh no, you have to read book two. Book two is the best, something like that. Please feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think. That's that series. Next, this is a series I've been off and on at for a while, and I think because of the way the author writes, or wrote and structured the beginning of a lot of the books in this series, it's a pretty easy one to take lengthier breaks from because of how much is recapped and gone over. And there's also so many fans and so many resources out there to help me get back into it whenever I have taken longer breaks and then come back. But this is Book 10, Crossroads of Twilight in the Wheel of Time series. I actually... for those of you who aren't familiar with the series or aren't familiar with a lot of the critical reception around the series, this book falls and, from what I understand, epitomizes a lot of what people consider the slog or the slowest middle section of books in this large 14 or 15, if you count the prequel book series. And I didn't hate season 1 of the show, so I am considering picking this back up, sort of using that momentum of season 2 of the show coming out to help me get through this, so that, when I'm watching with people who haven't read the books, the more I've read of the series, the further I get along, the more I'll be able to, maybe provide some context, explain a few things that the show might not be doing the best job at delivering. Again, as much as people talk about the slog and the slow section of books, some say it starts with book 7, some with book 8, some say book 9 and 10 are both really the slowest. I definitely see that things have slowed down, but I actually don't think that hurts the quality of the books. I think, I really enjoyed book 8, Path of Daggers, and that's often cited as some people's least favorite. I also really enjoyed elements of book 9. But I'm looking forward to continuing this series. My brother's finished it. My dad's actually reading this, and he's on book 12 right now, I believe. So please, anyone let me know if... I would actually really love to hear if there are any hot takes out there about people that... or from people who consider this one of their favorite Wheel of Time books, because I always see it rank so low. So if there's any really positive reviews or comments about this entry, that could do a lot to kind of motivate me to pick this back up. So yes, please, Wheel of Time fans, if you'd like me to just charge ahead and finish this series this year, please comment below. Not that BookTube necessarily needs more people talking about Wheel of Time. There's quite a lot of that already. However, I do promise that if I finish this series, I'll try and bring some more unique insights to any of my reviews or rankings or whatever I do. Next up, this is a series that I read one book by the author, standalone, 3 years ago or so, and then pretty soon after that, I really liked it. It took me a while to get used to her style, but I really liked that standalone. Then I read the first book in the series, and I've taken such a long break. But now might be as good a time as any to pick back up with Janny Wirtz's Wars of Light and Shadow series. This is the second book, Ships of the Marior. For those of you unfamiliar, it's going to be an 11-book series. The 11th book is being worked on right now, and the arcs have this sort of symmetrical structure where the first arc is just the first book. The fifth arc is just going to be this last 11th book. Then the second and fourth arcs are both 2 books, so this is the first of the second arc. Book 3 is the last of the second arc. And then that third arc in the middle is 5 whole books. So I'm really excited to keep reading the series. However, it always seems to kind of shift around in my TBR. Part of that might be because there's not a ton of discussion on these books on BookTube, so there's not a lot of I don't know. There's not a lot of conversation being had that is compelling me to dive back into this, whereas some of the other series I've been reading, there's more conversation, or there's adaptations, or things like that. However, I do see that now Philip Chase, Jimmy Nuts, I believe Joanna, and maybe AP Canavan are some of the booktubers out there who are all going to be reading the series pretty soon here. A lot of them have read Curse of the Mistwraith, book 1. So when that gets going, if there's any fans of this series that would love to see somebody else kind of read along with those booktubers, or maybe even at a different pace, slower pace, faster pace, whatever, please let me know. Please comment below if this is your favorite series, if this might be your favorite book in that series. All right. Now, one more book that's sort of on my TBR for the rest of the year. This is an author that I've been seeing a lot about lately, and I'm really excited to get into his work. It sounds like exactly the kind of thing I just love, I would adore. And that is, or this final book is Tigana by Guy Gabriel Kay. So, I know I love historical fiction, and I know I love when the actual style of writing is very poetic, very beautiful, when it flows really nicely. So, from everything I've heard, I'm going to love Guy Gabriel Kay's work. However, it's not so much a series. This is just a standalone. And then there's books that are in the same shared world. I don't believe this is in the same shared world as a lot of his other books. And I'm excited to get into those. However, because I haven't started this, maybe it would be better for me to finish some of the series I have started. However, if anyone out there thinks, oh no, if you're on BookTube, Guy Gabriel Kay is an absolute pillar, an absolute must of talking about fantasy, of understanding the genre, please let me know. And if anyone is a massive fan of this series, or if anyone, based on my reaction to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, thinks that might influence how much I like this book, or any of Kay's other books, or if anyone saw my Malazan ranking and thinks because I like Malazan so much, I should really pick up with any of those other series or charge forward with any of those others, please let me know. But yeah, so that's the last thing I've got there. So basically my options are, just real quick again, continue with Outlander, make that my main focus. Finally read the last couple books of N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy, make that my main focus. Pick back up where I left off in the slower sections of the Wheel of Time series. Finally charge ahead with Janny Wirtz's Wars of Light and Shadow series, especially that it seems to be getting a little bit more attention on BookTube now, or finally start with Guy Gabriel Kay, dive into an entirely new author to me that I have not much experience with, but a ton of excitement for. So, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. And again, anyone who's a fan of any of these series, please comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see me make videos on in the future. Thank you.